Today, we are going to tackle a really fascinating paradox, something I think a lot of us have felt but maybe couldn't quite put our finger on. Why some of the most driven, ambitious people you'll ever meet can also look, well, lazy.
I mean, really think about it. Have you ever had this huge world changing vision in your head? You're so excited about it, but you just can't get yourself to, I don't know, do the dishes or answer that one simple email? It's a really weird, conflicting feeling, right? Well, it turns out you are definitely not alone. And this is where that conflict really comes to life. So, on one side, you've got the perception. To the outside world, it looks like you procrastinate on all the small stuff. You avoid boring admin like the plague, and you might even seem kind of unfocused. But then there's the reality. Behind closed doors, you're the person who can easily pour 12 plus hours into a passion project, someone who is completely obsessed with a huge long-term goal. So, what's the deal? The easy answer is to just chalk it up to a character flaw, a simple lack of discipline. But if that was true, how could that same person have the incredible discipline to chip away at their big dream for years on end? See, the simple answer, it just doesn't really add up. The real reason is actually way more interesting. It has less to do with our character, and believe it or not, a whole lot more to do with our biology. It's not about being disciplined or not disciplined. It's about the chemicals that are literally running the show in our brains. So to really get this, we've got to dive into our brain's reward system, and specifically the one chemical that's calling all the shots. Okay, so let's talk about dopamine. Now, a lot of people call it the pleasure chemical, but that's not quite right. When it comes to motivation, it's really more of an anticipation chemical. Your brain doesn't release it when you get a reward. It releases it in anticipation of getting a meaningful reward. That little feeling of, ooh, I've got to do this. Yeah, that's dopamine. And this visual right here, this is the whole game. For the ambitious brain, the idea of completing some repetitive, boring daily task like filing paperwork gives you basically zero dopamine. There's just no reward to anticipate. But the thought of making even a tiny bit of progress on a huge, meaningful, long-term goal, whoosh, that floods the brain with dopamine. And that creates this powerful drive to keep pushing forward. This brings us to a really cool idea we can call strategic inertia. It's all about reframing this so-called laziness as something way more calculated. Think of it as a built-in resistance to inefficient effort. Just let that sink in for a second. Their brains are wired to resist doing things they think are inefficient. So if a task doesn't have a super clear line connecting it to that big, exciting, dopamine-filled goal on the horizon, the brain pretty much just says, nope, not worth the energy. A great way to think about this is like a mental energy budget. We all only have so much focus and real high-quality energy every single day. The ambitious person's brain is basically instinctively trying to save every last drop of that budget for the big stuff, the tasks that are actually going to move the needle on their vision. So, here is the crucial shift in perspective. What we call laziness, it's really just energy conservation. And what looks like procrastination, it's actually an intense focus on being efficient with your time and energy. Your brain is literally making a strategic choice. Okay, so understanding all this science is one thing, but how do you actually make it work for you instead of fighting against it all the time? Let's get into some practical ways to do just that. All right, how do you harness this? First, and this is a big one, just acknowledge this is how your brain is wired. It's not a character flaw, it's just your operating system. Second, you have to play detective and connect the dots. You have to find the why behind those boring tasks. How does answering that annoying email actually help you get closer to your big goal? Find that link. And third, you have to engineer quick wins. Your massive goal is too far away, so break it down into smaller and smaller pieces. That way you can get a steady little stream of those dopamine hits to keep your motivation tank full. So let's wrap this all up. Here's the bottom line. Your motivation is naturally tied to meaningful, long-term goals. What looks and feels like laziness is often just your brain's built-in efficiency filter, trying to save energy for what matters. And honestly, just understanding that this is how you're wired, that's the most powerful first step you can take to managing your energy better. Which kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on. The next time you feel lazy about some small annoying task, ask yourself, is this a character flaw? Or is it just your ambition speaking to you in the language of brain chemistry, trying to tell you to focus on what truly matters?